Hey, this is Warren Sprouse. You're on the Bible Forum. We do this every Sunday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern. We'd love for you to be a part of the show. We have a chat room and some other things. You can drop in a line, a question, whatever. But we'd like for you to be here live. If not, you can do what you're doing now and watch it online. A lot of stuff has happened this week. I wanted to give you a little rundown of the things that I tracked down and saw that I thought might be interesting, current events and that sort of thing. Last week, we were talking about the shack. Remember? You don't know anything about that, or you weren't here last week. Go to the website, check out the video. It's labeled that way, a shack, and it'll talk to you about that thing. It's a book that turned into a movie. Here's what the author is saying about it. He said there is no doubt, his words, that evangelicalism is changing, returning to an understanding of God that's in line with the early church fathers and mothers, an understanding that this author has tried to capture in the book. He says, as the structures start to crumble, which they are, all of a sudden permission to ask questions is emerging. He says, I think that it's a movement of the Holy Spirit. I think we're on the cusp or the inside of the beginnings of a reformation. My question is that what you think? This is an evaluation by an author, and there's some comment in there as well from the writers, on a website called the Religion News Service. I guess it's rns.com or something of that nature. And they put it out there without any comment. I mean, they're not making a comment yay or nay. Now, the website itself is also critical of your attitude toward the well-documented danger that's associated with Islam. They write about a group of outliers who identify themselves as people who take Jesus and the Bible most seriously, that these are people swimming against the tide. A solid majority of white evangelicals, they claim, not only support a temporary ban against Muslims, but do so by an increasingly large margin. And they say, shame on you. But The Shack opened as a movie this past week to critical acclaim, I suppose you might say. There was many people who call themselves Christian who think that this is the most wonderful thing since sliced bread. Others of us look at it and see just pure, unadulterated heresy. They are mocking God. They are creating new realities. They're impugning his character and all that is about him. And everybody in not everybody, but a large majority of evangelicals today, at least people who call themselves that, don't see the difference. I would encourage you to read articles about The Shack. I would not encourage you to read the book, and I would not encourage you to see the movie. You have more questions, you can see my video. We talked about it last week. You can go to the website and you can check that out. British actor Riz Ahmed, known for his recent role as Bodhi Rook, I guess that's how you pronounce it, in the new Star Wars movie, the one called Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Well, this actor fears a lack of diversity in the entertainment industry is going to lead young adults to join the Islamic State. No, I don't make this stuff up. That's what he thinks. A lack of diversity in the entertainment industry. What he's saying, there's not enough black people. There's not enough Muslims. There's not enough Chinese. There's not enough people other than white Americans, Anglo-Saxons, I suppose. And he said this is what's going to drive people to join up with the Islamic State. Did you know that February is now, according to some people, White Privilege Month. You thought it was Black History Month, didn't you? Now it's White Privilege Month for these people. It seems there's a day or a month for every left-wing cause. The students on campus at Elizabethtown College in Pennsylvania are wearing a white puzzle piece on their clothing in honor of this White Privilege Month. It's an entirely fabricated celebration, one which, ironically, takes away from Black History Month. But I digress. An effort on campus by students there could not really explain what was going on or what it was all about when they were interviewed on camera, but it does make them feel good. Now, several students said no one on campus is taking this seriously, but several seemed to be really into it, even if they couldn't answer the logical questions being asked of them. So what is all this about? What's motivating this? Well, it's nothing short of political correctness. The idea that racial discrimination is rooted in our sense, white people, and our sense of superiority. Now, the truth is often much different. There are people who discriminate against other people, but they'll discriminate against anybody or anything that's not like them or not like theirs. These are people we used to just call snooty. They're not going to mix with anybody that's not their kind. And color is just another identifier. Now, I've known very few people in my 70 plus years of life on this planet who truly disdain black people merely because they're black. You got to hunt high and low to find anybody like that. But where it occurs is generally about that person's manner or way of life, especially as it applies to me, regardless of their color. Ever hear of white trash? Oh, have you noted how many darker-skinned Americans are just as disgusted with all this race baiting as I am? This is almost, not completely now, it's almost a fabricated issue. I say almost because racism does occur. But it's almost fabricated in the sense that the average American is not the one doing it. It's the radicals among us. And now it appears that within the black community, the same thing is true. It's only among the radicals in the black community that are finding this issue and waving the flag every chance they get. What's the worst thing a Louisiana senator can do? Well, the list may be fairly long, but one state senator, Bill Cassidy by name, found out. He was in the East Jefferson Parish in Louisiana inspecting damage caused by a tornado last week or the week before, I've forgotten which. And afterward, he retired to the library where he met with a crowd of parish residents to discuss things. The crowd gathered was over 200 souls, and they were described by people who were there as rowdy, as they shouted about every liberal cause and entitlement imaginable. But the worst came when the senator asked the state chaplain to come forward and to pray. That invitation precipitated a tremendous outburst as men and women screamed, booed, yelled out catcalls and all sorts of indelicate things, while the chaplain prayed for them and for their parish. What was their problem? Well, their complaint was that there is a doctrine in American life called the separation of church and state. And these people know their rights. Well, who are these people? Well, they're no doubt liberals. Many of them probably Democrat. I think the senator was Democrat. No doubt people who avoid church attendance like the plague. No doubt some who view themselves as Christians. Where do these attitudes come from? They don't come from church. They don't really come in the average family life or in our school system. They don't really come from society in general, because most people are not like that. It comes from a hard heart, a heart that is spiritually hardened, a heart that wants to live in this world alone, meaning without God or without any mention of Him. People who can look and act as sweet and nice as anybody you might know, but at heart, they have what the Bible describes as a hard, darkened, selfish heart. Hypocrites? They're claiming to be Americans, and yet here they are despising everything that America represents. Learned this week that there are apparently 5.6 million jobs in America that go unfilled. That's according to a 2016 Labor Department study. They're calling it a near record high. And they're saying if you want a job, they're out there. But you have to learn a skill. Yeah, that's right. Not a whole lot of unskilled labor jobs available anymore. They're all pretty much gone. That's what people are taking. But they're looking at the lack of plumbers and carpenters and other blue-collar skills. Jobs that pay a living wage, by the way, but require you to learn a skill. You say, well, I don't know how to do it. Go find a plumber that needs a helper. He'll teach you. Go find a carpenter that just needs somebody to clean up for him on the job site. You'll learn it. And there are countless other blue-collar jobs that people will teach you. Go to the junior college, what do they call the community colleges and that sort of thing. That's all they do. And there's grant money available. There's scholarships available. No reason for any human being on the planet, or at least in this country, to go without a job. Unless they just physically, emotionally, mentally can't do it. But that ain't what we see in the lines collecting their little cards, do we? Recently, Sierra Nevada has been experiencing what experts are calling an historic winter. The snowpack in Sierra Nevada is getting too deep for devices the scientists used to measure it. After jamming an aluminum tube more than 16 feet into the snowpack, hoping to reach the ground below, hydrologist Jeff Anderson said, quote, "We're not even close." Can you say global warming? Recently we saw announced that former President George W. Bush's daughter Barbara is scheduled to be the keynote speaker at a Planned Parenthood fundraiser. Yeah. The Reverend Franklin Graham recently wrote that, quote, "Raising support for Planned Parenthood is like raising money to fund a Nazi death camp," end of quote. That's pretty sharp, harsh. But it is an accurate comparison, isn't it? Russian Deputy Prime Minister Dmitry Rogozin, who a few years ago was Russia's ambassador to NATO, warned recently that a new influence had appeared that was becoming a major threat to large segments of the world. namely Asia, Europe, and America. He said there's a new civilization emerging in the third world that thinks the white northern hemisphere has always oppressed it and must therefore now fall at its feet. He goes on to say if the northern civilization wants to protect itself, it must be united. America, the European Union, and Russia. If they are not together, he says, they will be defeated one by one. What's he talking about? Well, he's talking about radical Islam, mounted against Christian founding America, against Europe with its Judeo-Christian heritage, and even Russia with its historic Russian Orthodox Christian Church, which is a form of Catholicism. So why would the American political elite be so adverse to pursuing better relations with Russia, as Donald Trump, President Trump, has suggested? The Archbishop Chaplain of Russia said, quote, any fight against terrorism is moral. We can even call it a holy fight. We are paying attention, right? Things are getting stranger. There was no election held in the Gaza Strip recently. A new rebel leader was elected to head up Hamas in Gaza. His name is Yahya Sinwar. Not a household word or name. He was recently released from an Israeli prisoner in a prisoner swap after more than 20 years in jail. And he will now be, quote, the key decision maker for Hamas and a member of the executive leadership, helping to draw up policies, including those toward Israel. Sinwar has already said he wants to restore Hamas's relationship with Iran and boost their tactical partnership with ISIS. He also views the Palestinian Authority as an enemy and wants to topple the West Bank. He is considered trigger happy by his own people. Here's a little postscript. This is how it works in Israel. Recently, Hamas fired on Israeli army vehicles traveling along a highway near the Gaza Strip. And over a few days period, they did this 3 times. Now, they didn't hurt anybody. I guess they damaged some equipment. There were no injuries reported. However, the army did finally respond with tank fire. And in the process, they demolished the outpost from whence came the attacks. You see, the adage still holds, never bring a knife to a gunfight. Have you noticed how quickly businesses as well as ordinary people are responding to President Trump's more conservative agenda? It is always amazing to me. Put a liberal in power and everybody suddenly becomes a liberal. Put a conservative in power and they rush to his side. What's going on? I call it the lemming mentality, where people are concerned. The opportunist mentality, where business is concerned, simply trying to succeed. President Trump's approval rate has increased by 10 points in the last few weeks. It's now 53%. It will no doubt increase more until it looks like he's on the run. Then, or at the next election, these same people will flock to the other side. Ideologies? Not quite. Lemmings? Yeah. That's what human beings are. And they will follow whoever's in front of the parade. Don't be one of them.